So my paper was on the American prison system and the correlation to systemic racism in America. I chose this topic because the conversation of systemic racism has risen up currently, lately, with events with Black Lives Matter, police brutality, and just the corruption in the judicial system as a whole. So I feel like once you look over American history from emancipation to Jim Crow, civil rights, up until now, you can definitely see there is a correlation between systemic racism and the establishment of the American prison system. The purpose of my project was to compile all of this information chronologically to put it into one piece of paper, basically, like just one big essay. And my audience, of course, would be my peers who read the paper, but also I wanted it to be an easier read compared to academic journals and articles, and kind of bring down that barrier that is with more academic pieces, because I want it to be more accessible to people, because I don't think education should have a barrier between it. I think that someone should be able to read my paper, understand what's going on, and then feel the need to research it on their own without having to have a slew of basic knowledge beforehand like you would with an academic journal. So I think the verbal pitch lab helped me out in terms of having an oral explanation, especially since I'm going into education. I'm going to have to bring up more heavier topics to my students and be able to do it effectively. And I feel like having this verbal pitch and being able to speak it out helped me do that a lot better than I would have if I had just typed it out or did something else that wasn't verbal. Because I do kind of trip over my words sometimes. It's also hard for me to find the right vocabulary and just compile my sentences as a whole, just like I am now. um, so the real big challenge that I found while writing this paper was finding academic articles and journals completely, not completely, specifically based on my topic. What I had to do was, instead of just looking up the American prison system or the establishment of the American prison system, I had to go to different topics like the emancipation. I had to go to Jim Crow laws, civil rights movements, the 13th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, and like constitutional rights, and basically kind of branch out in order to find all the relevant information amongst those articles and then bottleneck it into what I found was relevant for my essay. So though it was a challenge, I feel like it really kind of it helped me pick out certain topics and like keywords within my essay, and then transfer that into my research. So that was probably the biggest thing that I had to deal with. And then for question 6, I think I am contributing to like a different side of history that not a lot of people are willing to look at. When we look at news and media and reports and everything, there's a bias. There always has been a bias. Looking back at like when you are in high school or middle school in American history, you don't learn about certain things. You learn about the victories of American history. And you learn about white America. And I feel like that's a big issue in terms of just indigenous people, black people, people of color who have to learn this history. And it's coming from my own experience of having to relearn this history from, like a Navajo perspective, from an indigenous perspective, and having to open my own eyes to a different America that's happening, that I've experienced, that my family's experienced, and like a lot of people are like very hard strung on not believing the other side of American history just because they don't want to. They don't want to see America as this imperialist country found on genocide and slavery and the work of minorities that benefit white people. Um, and I want to report on that. So all of my essays have been um, from that perspective in terms of history. Because even when I got to college, I was learning history through that perspective. And it's almost ridiculous that a lot of students have to do extra work to learn more about what actually happened. And I feel like if I were to compile all this information into a general summary of what happened, then I can spread the word essentially, which sounds preachy and sounds cheesy. But I know that genuinely, like when it comes to the reasons why I want to write this, that's what it is.